show yesterday, and let me just tell you something about Spenny. He's a comedian. He's a funny guy. Everyone knows that. He has one of the greatest Canadian television shows in history. And he hates talking about politics, but he can talk about politics. I appreciate that about people when they recognize that they have a zone that makes them feel uncomfortable, and yet they can talk about it forever. I do suspect, though, that Spenny is one of those people who says he hates talking about politics, but really kind of doesn't. There's a rush that people feel, including, I think, my guest today. My guest today might also have, my co host today might also have a sort of love and hate thing with politics. We all met him when he got really mad at a political situation in his hometown of Ottawa, but his name is Paul Atkinson. Paul, how are you, buddy?
Hey, brother. I am great. How about yourself?
I'm good. Good. I'm
Nice.
in one of those phases in life where it's like every time I feel sorry for myself, I imagine my kids looking at my face, and then I'm like, oh, okay, well, obviously I can't
Yeah,
have that
that's
face for.
yeah, that's gonna leave a mark.
Yeah, I haven't seen my kids in about a month.
Mm.
Um, and listen, I can't get into it because
Hmm.
because
I understand.
on advice of my legal counsel, it's nothing that I did. I still am a legal 50-50 parent and all that kind
Hmm.
of stuff. But other things have happened. I might talk about it a little bit later, just because not about the legal stuff, but about what has happened. Actually, you know what? I'll just fucking I don't care. uh, no, because I just can't admit anything, right? So I'm not admitting any wrongdoing.
Fair
Um,
point.
but something happened, and I ended up in jail in Ottawa for 4 days, and it wasn't like I know. How do you explain something when you can't explain it? I ended up in jail for 4 days in Ottawa. Now, who cares about how I got there? Let me just tell you something about jail, though. Don't throw out any food.
Oh God, no.
Okay, these are the don'ts about prison. Okay, the first don't is don't throw out any food. The second don't is don't whistle. I didn't know that.
What?
I had no idea that you weren't allowed to whistle in jail, and I'm a whistler. I am like a second nature. Don't even realize I'm doing it, whistler. And so
What's
my
the what's the
well,
reason
I
behind that, though?
well, I'll tell you. So I'm like as I'm walking to my bunk because it was
Hmm.
like a dorm of prisoners of like 25 of us, right? And so I'm like whistling as I'm taking back. I don't know what it was, a fruit cup, something like that. Anyways, and I'm whistling because I got a fruit cup. The irony of being in prison for 4 days, it was a lot less stressful than all the other shit that I've been going through. It was like almost like a vacation.
Were you
I
at the
know.
Holiday Innis
No, I was at the Ottawa Correctional Facility, whatever the fuck that
on Innis
horrible.
Road? Holiday Innis.
Oh, is that what it's called?
Yeah, Holiday Innis.
Apparently,
Innis
it's a
Road.
really rough prison. And now,
Very. Yeah,
now
it
it
really is.
helps. Here's a do. There's do's and don'ts. Here's one of the do's. If you're a dope ass rapper, let people know. I was the dopest rapper in my dorm, and
Okay.
it made everything a lot easier. It really did. I'm not gonna lie to you. Um, but yeah. So throwing out food is a no no. Whistling is because it's associated with being a free person.
Oh,
Yeah. And of
didn't
course,
know that.
because I'm argumentative, I was just like, and this is already when I had my street cred for being a rapper. I was just like, what's with the whistling thing? I'm like, wow, that's what free people do. And I'm like, you can own it. We can take it back from the free people and just start like a whistling fucking choir. We could do that, guys. So I was lucky I got by on my personality, but otherwise I was there with murderers and rapists and
Hmm.
um it's weird. They don't shy away from why they're in there.
No, 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 no.
It's not like what are you in for is like the opener.
Hmm.
And they're like, is this your first time in jail? And I was like, been to the bullpen once. So they're like, so it's your first time in jail? I'm like, yeah. But I'm a dope ass rapper.
Well, I worked at Kingston Penitentiary for I think 5 months, and I was installing a surveillance system in there, doing what I
Oh,
do.
yeah. They must have
And
loved you.
that was an interesting time. I met Paul Bernardo while I was there. Um,
Oh,
Disturbingly charming and good-looking man. I didn't know who he was. I just, this guy's just started talking to me, and uh, I've told the story before, but I was literally in a manhole in the prison yard, and it's not a deep one because I could stand up and it came up to about here on me when I stood up.
Just as an aside, a lot of prisoners in the Kingston pen hoped to be in Paul Bernardo's manhole. But go ahead. That's all I got.
Hopefully, so I'm down there.
Manhole is not my porn name. Please go.
I'm pulling fiber, and all of a sudden everything stops, and I'm like, "What the hell's going?" Like I'm on the radio calling, and nobody's responding. So I pop my head up and I look around. I'm like, "Where the hell did the whole prison yard was cleared? There was nobody. It was like a ghost town." And like 5 minutes prior to that, it was like this hub of activity. So I'm like, "Well, that was weird." And all of a sudden, this tall, good-looking, physically fit, blonde-haired, beautiful man just says, "Hey, how's it going?" I go, "Pretty good. How about yourself?" He goes, "Gorgeous Friday. The weather's great. The sun is shining. It's, the May long weekend. What more can you ask for?" I go, "Yeah, no kidding, eh?" He goes, "Hey, you have yourself a great weekend." And I go, "You too." And then I watch him walk a few more meters, and then he turns right and goes into one of the condos. And I realized, oh, that's an inmate. And 2 minutes later, everybody comes back out. The whole yard comes back together. And I on the radio, they call me. They go, "Yeah, you just talked to Paul Bernardo." And it was like, it's like charming, good-looking, charismatic. He actually, and I'm not lying when I say this, he made my day better. So I think I know how he got his victims.
Yeah, no, but that's interesting. It's an interesting piece of psychopathy, right? Like it's um narcissists. That's what they do, right? Like that they have
And they're good at it.
Yeah, yeah. If you've ever dated a narcissist, you know what I'm talking about. Like it's one of those
Maybe once or
things.
twice.
Yeah, it's awful because at the beginning they make you feel like Superman
Mm-hmm.
because they're so good at love bombing. Oh
Yep.
God, they're great, and they're the best at first impressions,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so every time someone met one of my exes, they'd be like, "Oh my God, she is just so sweet,
Mm-hmm.
so salt of the earth, and da da da. I can't believe you call her a cunt all the time." Like, you know, sorry, but it happens.
Well.
Listen, you didn't see her on Tuesday,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? Like, you know,
You weren't
yeah,
there when the spotlight wasn't on her.
yeah, that's when everything changes.
Yeah.
But enough about that. So that's really interesting. So he goes out in the yard so no one will kill him, basically.
Well,
by himself?
so what happened was he was in lockdown 23 hours a day. He had 1 hour of yard time, and it was literally in a small fenced-in section. It was outside, but they were 20-foot high chain link fences with barbed wire. And everybody went into lockdown when he had his 1 hour. But on this particular weekend, his parents came to visit him, and there were 6 condos in the prison yard at Kingston Penitentiary.
So he lives in a condo?
No.
Oh.
No, he lived in his cell was smaller than my recording booth. But if
So about the same size as my recording booth.
I don't know,
Except his mommy wasn't there. Oh, she was visiting them.
40 square feet, very, very, very small.
Yeah.
So they had the condos, and if your family came to visit from a faraway place, because if you got sent to Kingston Pen, it didn't mean you lived anywhere nearby. You could have been from Nunavut for all that, you know. So if your family came to visit, they would give you a weekend in the condos to try and calm people down and chill people out. So he got a weekend a month or whenever his parents came to visit. And this just happened to be one of those weekends. And it was a very surreal moment, you know. I've met some rough and tumble people throughout my life. Working as a nightclub DJ, you meet a lot of those folks. And I'm actually going to be working on a series of shows that I'm going to record. We can't live stream them because of the time frame and where my where the subject is living. It just won't correspond with our time zone. So we're going to have to record the shows, but it's going to be a series where he's going to talk about his life story. And this is a person I've known for 30 years who was a hardened criminal. And I knew him on the periphery, but he always liked me, and he was always kind and polite to me. And we became, weirdly enough, buddies. And he always kept how he earned his living. He kept far away from me because he knew I never wanted any part of that. He's like, I don't use drugs. Well, I use the legal ones, liquor, alcohol, which is a drug. That's the
Heroin.
strongest drug I've ever taken
Oh
is
wait, that's
whiskey.
not legal. Yeah.
Well, it's
That's
legal.
you've never taken any drugs?
No, no,
Well, we got to fix that. But
no. You don't understand.
just joking.
I'm allergic to too many things, dude. I'm afraid it might kill me. Like I can't even
I
be
would
around
honestly
cannabis.
not like force you to do drugs. I don't know if this surprises you or not, but I wouldn't actually force
No,
you.
I
to
know.
do
I know
drugs.
you wouldn't. I know you wouldn't. You're a good, kind, caring human being. I do know that
I
about
don't
you.
know about that, but you know.
Well, you would have my welfare in mind.
I would. I wish I was allergic to drugs. It would solve a lot of problems.
Well, you have one anaphylactic shock or when you're just in the vicinity of something. It's
Mm.
like, okay, so none of that. I want no part of any of it. Anaphylaxis is really scary. Uh, when you feel like you're drowning, but you're not in water, you can't breathe because your lungs are closing up.
Yeah.
It's a terrifying situation. So if you ever experience something like that, and I can say this with, somebody who has experienced it, it's you think you're going to die, and you realize, as your eyes swell shut and your throat swells up, and you're thinking, okay, this is it. This is how I go out. I don't even get to leave a good-looking corpse though, because
Yeah. And isn't that the important thing?
well,
That's why I always appreciated when Big Pussy from Sopranos was like, not in the face, eh, fellas?
yeah,
Yeah, he's
yeah.
thinking of his mom. Unfortunately, they then put him in a bag with chains and put him in the bottom of the ocean, so it wouldn't matter anyways. But the thought was there for his loved ones.
Yeah.
I wonder what it would be like to be just like in a moment where you're just like you're accepting that someone is about to murder you, and to bring yourself to the place where you're like, "Hey, not in the face." You're done begging for your life, and you're just like, "All right."
Yeah, I don't. How about not that, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. Many people like myself who have done drugs over their lifetimes have probably almost OD'd a whole bunch of times, and it still didn't stop us. But maybe anaphylactic shock would work.
Probably would.
You know, I did in the year 2000. I went to the Living Room in Toronto,
Mhm.
and it was a club that used to be there.
I know it.
Yeah, it's not there anymore.
No.
And someone was like, "Hey, do you want to do a bump of this?" And I thought it was cocaine.
Oh no.
And there was like a little tiny bump there, and then like kind of a big pile. And I was like, well, I'll just take the big pile, fuck it, right? And I took the big pile, and they were like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" And I was like, "Sorry about that." And holy fuck, does this burn? They're like, "Dude, that's K."
Oh no.
I did like a half gram of ketamine in one bump, right? And I had never done that before. And by the way, never done it since. Because if I ever did drugs and this happened to me, I would never do drugs again. But ketamine is crazy. I don't know if you know anyone that's ever done it. There's people
Mhm.
that do it recreationally on purpose.
Yeah.
I'm
Why?
assuming they know how
Why?
to do it. Yeah, because K holes, which are scary for some people, are the best ever for others. For me, not quite the best ever. So I'm standing
Mm.
outside the living room, and I'm there with my friend Laura, and a bunch of other people. And Laura is sitting inside, like 15 feet away, and I'm standing on the outside with my hands on the outside bar ledge, and I'm looking at her, and then all of a sudden I just do this, and then when I look back up again, I'm now seated beside Laura, looking where I was just standing. But I had no idea how I got there. I literally thought I just went like this, and when I was done, I would still be where I was, but I wasn't beside Laura. And I look at Laura, and Laura's like, "James, you gonna answer me?" I'm like, "What did you say?" She's like, "Why did you just fly through the window instead of taking the door?" And I'm like, "I have no fucking idea." Right?
I don't remember that.
And I'm like, "Laura, I just did a half gram of K according to someone. I've never done K before." She's like, "Oh no." She's like, "Let's go for a walk." So we went for a walk along, I don't know, Richmond or something. And every time I pass by my reflection, I'd stop and look at it. And and I remember Laura's name, but I couldn't remember my own. I literally couldn't. And I know that sounds like a joke, haha. I literally could not remember
No,
my name.
that's
And
disturbing.
I didn't tell her because I didn't want to freak her out. And also I was like confused as to why I remembered her name and not my own. And though it's funny though, because the whole time I'm like, I know this is just the drug,
Hmm.
but I still don't know my fucking name. I don't know how I'm
There's
still alive, Paul.
there was a guy I went to high school with. and I was a year older than him. He was in the 9th grade. I was in the 10th grade. And for his final math exam, he decided he was going to, and I'm like, you did what? He goes, yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm like, I
What
don't,
did he do?
he snorted a hit of acid each
I've
nose.
done that. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, so they sat down, they go, you have 90 minutes to write this math final exam. He goes, no
I
problem.
bet you he aced it.
No. He got 0 because he wrote his name for every answer and handed the paper in within about 3 minutes. He just sat down, wrote his name for every answer, and handed it in and left.
Oh, that's the greatest. That
Well,
is
it's a
so
funny story. And in the end, I'm going to say he turned out okay, but that's up for debate.
What's his first and last name, Paul?
I'm not telling you that.
Just kidding.
But I will tell you this: he works in the film industry,
Okay.
and
I would have guessed that probably.
well, he was a drummer in a band for a while, and he toured with Vanilla Ice for about a year back in
That's
the
when he
day.
should have did acid.
Yeah, there's a
Acid,
famous
acid.
picture of him it's in the grotto, and Vanilla Ice is in the grotto, and he's cannonballing into the grotto, and he's in midair in the photo. It's a famous photo that I've seen many times. I don't know how many people have seen it, and it's not mine to share, so I never will. But I can tell you about it because it is in the public domain.
Okay.
And this is a guy I've known since like 1980. And a bunch of years ago when I was going through a rough patch, for some reason, he just reached out to me. He goes, "Hey, brother, how's it going?" I go, "Well, I just lost my
Is it
job."
Hulk Hogan?
Pardon?
Sorry. Is it Hulk Hogan?
No.
Hey, brother, how's it going? I'm just like, oh my god.
Just lost my job. I said I'm flat broke. I've hardly had any work, and I was in a really bad spot. And he goes, "Here's $500." I'm like, "What?" He goes, Here's $500. Now I want you to do something for me." And I go, "Okay." He goes, "I have a couple of cars I'm selling to somebody in Sweden. How do I do that?" I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I just want to know what the tax implications are." So I spent a couple of days looking it up, and I go, "Here's what you're looking at." And he goes, "Okay, cool. You want to come to Sweden with me?" I go, "What?" He goes, "Well, I'm going to deliver them in person. We can have a great time. I know a bunch of women there." I'm like, "No, I can't do that. I've got an EI check coming in. Thank you for the 500 you tied me over until my first EI check, and I got to look for work." He goes, "You're out of work. Let's go to Sweden." I'm like, I don't have any money. I don't think that's a good idea. I didn't go, also because I know I love him, and he's a friend, and I've known him for 44 years, but he's a lunatic.
Can you give him my number?
Oh, you guys would die if you spent a weekend together.
I don't know.
The last time he came to Ottawa, I won't tell you when it was, but he calls me up. He goes, "Yeah, we're going out to this club." He goes, "We're on the VIP. Just show up, give me your name, and they'll let you in." I'm like, "Okay." So I show up, and he's got bottle service. He's got all this vodka, all this stuff. And he goes, "All right, we're partying. We're having a good time." And he's suited up. And I'm like, "What? I didn't know we were supposed to suit up." He goes, "Don't worry about it." Then all these strippers start coming in. And then we ended up at a party in Barhaven, of all places, at 4 a.m. And we're
That's
playing.
one of the cities where the monologue or where the monorail existed.
And we're playing we're playing what was it, Rockstar? What was the guitar game there?
Guitar Hero.
Guitar Hero, yeah. We're playing Guitar Hero at like 5 a.m. The sun's coming up, and I'm like, I got to get some fresh air. I go outside, the sun's up, and I'm sitting in the backyard. And my friend, one of my friends was like, "You want a coffee?" I go, "I'd love a coffee. I just, I got to get home. I don't even know how the hell, where am I? I don't even know where I am." And this is pre-Uber, right? So I'm like, I'm going to have to call a cab.
Pre-Uber for me, by the way. I've never used Uber. But go ahead.
And a friend of mine says, "Oh, where do you live?" I go, "Downtown." She goes, "I can drop you off." I'm like, "Really?" So this woman brings me a coffee, and it was like a Bailey's Irish coffee, and it had more whiskey than coffee in it. She goes,
"Can I also have her number?"
So I'm sitting beside the pool, and I'm drinking a Bailey's coffee at like 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning because we went out on the Saturday.
And no drugs.
And I'm drunk. I'm like, we've been drinking all night, and I'm like, I just want to go home.
Can I
But
say
I have to finish this coffee.
Let me stop you right there for a second. You do realize that you were the only one awake without the assistance of cocaine at that point, right? You must know this. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Strippers, buddy, 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Nightclub DJ, man. I can go longer than most people. Drug
Yeah,
free.
yeah. I was a rave promoter. There was
You
no
know.
drug. Yeah, there was no drug free. Um,
Well, it was for me.
yeah, we didn't manage DJs that didn't do drugs. We didn't trust them. We were always worried that they were cops. I'm not kidding, because we
I
used to
believe it.
get now that is there a statute of limitations on importing narcotics?
I don't know. I would keep that one under your hat.
Nah, I don't care. In the year 2000, we used to import MDMA straight from Holland, because we had a guy that worked at the airport, and
Of course.
he worked in baggage. So certain bags always got through, but we never and we used to get DJs loved us because we managed like 30 DJs, and we used to throw like every 2 months we'd throw big giant events, but we would have somewhere to go every Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Actually, even more than that, probably Wednesday too, because of Limelight. But we used to
Limelight was a
go.
good club.
Yeah, it was. We used to go out all the time, and so we used to pay our DJs, and also give them a couple of hits of MDMA, and they and they loved us for it. Listen, I know it makes, especially people that don't do drugs. Actually, you would be the exception to the rule, because being ensconced in sort of the
Hmm.
electronic music scene, I will never call it EDM because I'm too
No,
old. But the electronic music scene, like it or not, um, MDMA was part of the culture.
oh
It
yeah,
just
yeah.
it just was. Whether or
Mm.
not you partook in it, not all
It
that
was always
relevant,
there.
but it was always there. And here's the thing: for a lot of us lost suburbanites,
Mhm.
people that grew up in the suburbs, I have a whole theory about how the suburbs is a culture killing enclave.
I
Like,
agree with you.
like if you're like Irish, Scottish or English or fucking even Portuguese or Greek or whatever, there are only certain families that were like, if your parents were second generation, you probably weren't ensconced in the culture of your parents at home
Absolutely
when you
not.
lived in
Yeah,
the suburbs.
yeah.
So my Italian friends in like Toronto, some like at St. Clair, sure, their grandma still lived with them. It smelled like an Italian house. They played like Italian opera.
Plastic on the
The mom was
furniture.
always trying to get you to eat. That was an Italian household. My household, which was, my mom was Dutch, my dad was Italian, there was no like, maybe at Christmas we would get bittaballa,
Mm.
like a Dutch appetizer, and a Sunday sauce is really all it was. But otherwise, sorry, I'm getting to my point. The suburbs was a place where you could look at it one of two ways. It's where culture went to die,
Mm.
especially when it came to your family's ethnicity, or where you built your own. Now, oftentimes, because you didn't know you were building your own because you're a kid, your culture then became video games,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
road hockey, and bush parties. Right, that was like the new culture. And what the reason why the rave scene was so powerful for some of us, and I got there late, but um, was because we were all quietly and probably subconsciously looking for something that fed into our natural instinct to want to be cultured.
Oh, absolutely.
And so what then and the unfortunate byproduct of living in the suburbs can often be a complete shutdown when it comes to things like empathy, when it comes to things like depth in conversations. It was a lot of ball busting and probably not being really like sweet to women like you could, just being idiot guys and all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, I discovered the rave scene quite accidentally, and I did MDMA for the first time at like 22, and I'm sitting there at this after party. I happen to live with the biggest promoter in the city. He just happened to be my roommate.
That's kind
And
of
so I
wild.
got a crash course. Like my first ever electronic music show was in 1999, and it was Tiesto's first show in North America.
Well, that's a trial by fire.
Well, it was awesome because Tiesto and I got high together, and we still talk to this day. So it was great. But the thing is that when I took ecstasy, I'm sitting there at this after party, and all of a sudden, I'm just like sitting there like, holy fuck, this is. I just want to like confide and share, and it wasn't like in an uncontrolled way like alcohol is or
Hmm.
cocaine is or whatever. And the cool thing was is that I woke up the next day, and whatever window of being a more loving person, being more personable, being more empathetic, stayed with me.
Oh wow.
It never went away. So it was almost like the culture and the drug, had a role to play in making me discover, hey, stupid, life isn't just about busting balls and not
Mm.
having deep conversations. Like, look at all the things that you did last night. And now there's still a whole bunch of people scattered in our apartment just waking up, and they're nice. I never went to a rave and there was a fight or even
I,
an argument.
you know what? I went to many a rave throughout the 90s. And in the early 90s, like 92, 93, I went to raves. And I remember friends came to visit once from out of town, and they lived in a small town. And I said, I'm going to bring you to a rave tonight. They go, really? This is going to be wild. What do I got to do? And I go, just be yourself. Everybody will be super friendly,
Mm,
super kind. Nobody has an attitude. There will not be a single fight. Everybody will be polite. You're going to be surprised. And they're like, really? And I go, trust me. So we go to this warehouse rave in the West End of Ottawa, and it used to be a roller rink, and it became a warehouse, and then now I don't know what the hell it is today. We get there, and I walk in, and I go, so we're going to go into the first room, and the volume of the music was like I couldn't hear my like it was
yeah,
insanely loud.
yeah.
I couldn't stay for like more than 2 minutes. Like this is too much. I can't take it.
Like concrete walls,
It was
kind of shit.
well, think of the loudest concert you've ever been to and then crank it up. It
Loudest
was
concert I ever been to was the Rage Against the Machine show at the Civic Auditorium in Toronto.
okay, so increase that by 50%.
Oh,
There were no like there were people in the middle of the dance floor. Like you know how you get people at raves that'll
yep.
be right in front of the speakers?
Yeah.
I don't know who was running the sound, but it was too much. There were people right dead center, and they were clustered together. They couldn't be anywhere near the speaker. It was too much. It was way too loud.
Yeah.
So we went to the chill room, and everybody in the chill room was like, "Hey, how's it going? Do you
Yeah.
want some Vicks? Do you want some Tiger
Yeah.
Balm?
Yeah. Would you like a massage?
Would you
Platonic?
like can
Yeah.
would you like a haircut? There's a guy over there giving
Yeah.
haircuts. Well, how about an orange?" And my friends were like, "What the hell?" I go, "This is rave culture, man. Plur,
Yeah.
peace, love, unity, respect." Apparently, that doesn't exist anymore. I'm told.
It doesn't. A lot of that has to do with Mel Lastman.
Mm,
We threw shows until like 2002, and then Mel Lastman killed it. Or he killed it with the policy when he was. I don't remember what year he was in office until maybe 2004 or five or something. But he just made it. He just made the cops shut everything down all the time. So the only places that were left were like the actual clubs,
hmm
and they had now decided that despite the fact that we fucking brought people in all the time, um, they noticed two things. One thing they noticed is that not big drinkers,
hmm
right? Um, the
At all.
rave crowds are not big drinkers. Like you can only mark up water so much, so much, right?
Smart drinks. Remember smart
Yeah,
drinks?
I do remember smart drinks. And then the other thing was, uh, so corporate sponsors for clubs were often alcohol companies,
hmm
and so they just wanted to change the vibe and started heavily promoting to the 905 area code and not to downtown people like us, so that they would drink more.
Yeah,
And I understand it was an economic decision.
I get
They
it.
still once in a while, like there's still like the Promise Raves still happen.
Mm.
Harvest Fest still happens. So there's still a couple things. I haven't gone to any. I don't think I would ever go again. But it did again. It did provide me with something that I could at least take away something from that scene.
hmm
And it's not, and I don't do ecstasy. I haven't done ecstasy, and I don't even know how long. Quite. Oh, well, actually, a couple years ago. But before that, like 10 years ago. But there is a. I guess it would, if I was gonna compare it to something, I guess I would maybe compare it to like sort of like the hippie movement of the 60s,
hmm
except this was like the 90s version of that.
it you know the thing was, I remember when I saw it coming around in the early '90s, and it's the crazy. And I'm like, no, man, it's the Flower Children. It's just the new version. It's all it is. It's all it is. It's young people who and you got to remember at the time when this started, there was a war going on in Iraq.
Yeah.
in the early 90s.
Yep,
So that,
before.
it, the Gulf War, and that was disturbing to us because there hadn't been a shot fired by our side, if you will, since 1975 when Vietnam,
Mm.
Saigon fell, and Canada wasn't even involved in that war. We were part of Cyprus, and every now and then there were shots fired, but there was nothing that directly affected us as people. So when the Gulf War came around in 1990, it was we were convinced the world was going to end. So what was I, 22 years old at the time, and I had friends who just started going to raves, and they're like, just come, man, it'll change your life. So I went, and they never served alcohol, and I don't do drugs. So it's like have a couple of drinks, show up to the rave, and drink some water, and had a good time. Drink bottled water that was sealed.
Yeah. Well, you probably wouldn't have to worry about it there, though. Like that's
No, it's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But your paranoid brain is working overtime. But I never had a bad time at a party ever. And then of course they eventually moved into the clubs, and we had some pretty legendary clubs here in Ottawa back in the day. Atomic, if you are of a certain age,
I've been to Atomic.
you know it then. It was legend. Well, Max Graham kind of got his start there. Max is a buddy. We used to work together.
Max Graham, we did like 3 Max Graham events. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when he went global, and I was like, Jesus, man. I remember when he worked at Astrolight and he was spinning hip hop, and
Dude,
Max
we paid Max Graham like 15 grand in like the year 2000. Like
Yeah.
he was,
he was making money. Well, he lives in Montreal now, and I've chatted with him once or twice. I haven't in a long time. I mean, you lose touch, life changes. But I remember when he was spinning hip hop, and he decided he was going to learn how to play house and hard techno. So he dedicated himself, and he literally sat in his basement for a year and worked on his craft. He was dedicated. He was one of the DJs, the very few DJs I knew in Ottawa who decided I was going to earn a living at this. And most
he
of us
also
back
didn't
then.
do drugs.
No.
And that was one of the things that I remember about him, because he was like the only DJ
He was
that didn't
straight
do
edge.
drugs.
Yeah. Max is a good guy, and a skilled DJ, and a good songwriter,
Good businessman too.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, he had residencies all over the world, and we were so proud of him. It was like, dude, I'm so happy for you, man. You put the work in, and you turned it into a real gig. And this was at a time when, a full-time living as a DJ was, you were doing weddings and corporate events. You might have a club gig once in a blue moon, but you weren't making a good living at it. And then he started, he was right there when it really started to take off, when the DJ became the act you went to see. And I mean, now come on, it's insane today. Tiesto will play in front of 100,000 people.
I know, and it's so funny. People don't understand how much clout, before the word clout meant what it means today, but how much clout big name DJs had back in the day.
Crazy.
Like we brought in Tiesto in '99, paid him like 12 grand. Year 2000 paid him like 30, and then the year 2001 paid him like 50, and then couldn't afford him anymore because he started making a couple $100 grand a gig. People have no idea the kind of market disruption that electronic music DJs created in the music scene, because they weren't often attached to labels. Right. And often they were independent. And if they were attached to labels, they weren't attached to labels that would play that stupid advanced scam game or throw $250,000 into marketing. They didn't have to, because the culture did it for them.
Yep.
As soon as you went to tribe.ca, right? Remember the tribe board?
Yeah.
As soon as you went there and posted an event, if it was a good DJ, your event would sell out.
Oh yeah.
You didn't have to. So it was just such a disruption. When it came, like they made more, they probably still do. Like if you told me that The Weeknd makes as much as Tiesto, I would be completely shocked.
Agreed. Well, like Calvin Harris, I think 1 year he earned $65 million in a year playing records.
Wow.
That is mind blowing to me. Now, Avicii, who, may he rest in peace, he was different than a lot of DJs because he was a musician. He played guitar. He knew how to write music, and he also was an incredibly gifted creator. I saw him in the studio with Nile Rodgers. And if for those of you who don't know who Nile Rodgers is, he's a producer, he's a writer. He was with, the song Le Freak by Chic.
Yep.
Freak out. That's Nile Rodgers, for those of you who don't know. Anyway, Niall's in the studio with him, and he was saying he's like a modern Beethoven. He sees the entire thing laid out in his head. He has it all there. He knows what sound needs to be placed at what place at what time, and he creates all of this out of thin air. And then he writes and records it. And he goes, and I've never witnessed anybody like this in my life. He is a modern Beethoven. And they kind of worked him to death, which is the sad story. And he was a genius, a musical genius. And there was a documentary I watched about him a couple of years ago on Netflix, and it was like, it'll bring tears to your eyes, man, because this kid, they worked him to death.
What do you mean they?
His management company.
Oh, really?
You have to appear. And he's like, I'm in the hospital with pancreatitis. You got to be on stage. It was like that line from the Austin Butler Elvis movie. I don't care what you do. Make sure he's on stage playing tonight. Colonel Tom.
Yeah. When he was on like 7,000 pills.
Yep. Whatever you do, get him on stage tonight. That boy needs to be on stage. That's what they did to Avicii, Tim Berglinger. They he retired when he was he even 30? He's like, that's it, I'm retiring from music. And he went to live on an island, and then he took his own life, sadly.
Yeah, people don't know like the pressure to being that kind. Like the third year that we had Tiesto, where did we play? The Docks in Toronto. And 4,000 people or something like that. And then so he came back. The DJs always came back to our after party or our apartment. So this time came back to our apartment before we went to the after party. And the after party was at a record store actually on Spadina. But we're sitting there and we're pretty high. We're on E though, but we're sitting on a balcony and we're smoking a joint. And I looked at him and I'm just like, you've come a long fucking way, dude. I'm like, first of all, thank you for only making us pay you 50 grand because I know you're getting double that in Ibiza. And I know that Toronto's not Ibiza, but we have a big scene here. Like, I appreciate it. And he's like, he was so nice. He's like, honestly, he's like, I hate Ibiza. He's like coming here. He's like, first of all, he's like, 50 grand's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
I would never say that it's not a lot of money. And I was like, well, that's good to hear. Can I have 25 of it back? Right? He's like, no. Right? But he was like, he's like, the 50 grand gigs, he's like, which my own manager said that I can't really do anymore, but they made an exception for you guys because you were the first. And when he says you, it wasn't me. It was my roommate that brought him in the first year. The second 2 years, I was the creative director of the company, so like I actually had something. But like the first year, I was just like a hanger on or a roommate or whatever the fuck you want to call it. He's like, but the 50 grand gigs that we did like, I started out my career in North America with you guys. He's like, I have no problem doing the show, and I enjoyed this a lot much more than I would enjoy the show in Ibiza, even though I'd be getting paid 2-3 times as much. And he's like. And I asked him, even though I knew the answer, I was like, why though? Like, what makes you enjoy it more? Maybe I just wanted to hear him hear what he would say. And he's like, because I can never have conversations like this when I'm in Ibiza, because there's always like a manager there, or a club owner there, or a fucking like hostess there, or some girl there, or whatever. And you're just never. And the only time you can be alone is in your hotel room, and then you're not alone because your friends are there. And he's like, I don't know if you noticed, but I only came on this trip with myself and my manager. And you know where my manager is right now? And I'm like, high somewhere, I'm imagining. He's like, yeah, that's right. In his hotel with the girl that he picked up at the event. He left like halfway through my set. And I'm like, oh. He's like, yeah, he trusts you guys. And I'm like, would you like another pill? But it was like, and even when I say the word Tiesto, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people in the chat that have no idea who that is. He was like consistently ranked the world's #1 DJ for like a decade.
Oh, and making crazy money. He's played Ottawa a number of times, and I've had a few friends who've gone to see him. And I don't know the man. I've never met him. I've never even seen him play because he sells out in like 2 seconds. Yeah. And so Escapade is Ottawa's electronic music festival. And It happens in the summertime, and it's a medium-sized festival. By European standards, it's very tiny. By North American standards, it's medium-sized. But here's the thing. Um, I've spoken to some people who have worked it, and I've spoken to some DJs who've worked it, and they said they love to play this city. And I was like, really? Ottawa? He goes, yeah, because unlike a lot of other cities around the world, when they come to Ottawa, the people who are going to the shows here, yes, you're going to have a few Instagram influencers who are there for that and that only.
Mm.
He says, but the vast majority of the people that are at the show, the vast majority, 95% of them are there for the music and for the experience. They're not posing. They're there for the experience. And I was like, wow, I had no idea. He's like, yeah, you'd be surprised. He says that the thing about the Ottawa scene that a lot of people don't realize is this is one of the most educated cities in the world.
Dude, Toronto, Canada's, all of Canada's cities.
Yes.
Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, not so much Vancouver, to be perfectly honest with you. Calgary to a certain extent.
Mhm.
But Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, so respected as far as our knowledge of
Yep.
electronic music and that scene in general.
It's wild. It's mind blowing to me. I'm like, really? I had, it's one of those things. Because I'm not in the scene anymore, right? Come on, I'm old, but I still have friends who are on the periphery and a couple of friends who are involved in it to a certain degree, and they tell me, oh man, we're well respected. I'm like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
But at the same token, I'm not surprised. I didn't know, but I wasn't surprised. I'm like, yeah, that's reasonable. Because, when I would go to those shows, people were there. Sure, the experience is part of it, but they were never there to pose. It was never, I need to be seen. You go to a nightclub if you want to be seen. You go to something like that because you believe in it.
You went with a crew of trusted friends.
Yep.
Okay. And sometimes if you were like me, that crew was like 10 to 12 people.
Mm-hmm.
But we fortunately also had the luxury of like being with the DJ and being wherever we wanted in the club or whatever. But here's the thing. That wasn't the shit that I really loved. It was like you mentioned the chill out room earlier.
Oh yeah.
The chill out room was the greatest place ever because you could go there. They were playing like some deep house, but you could still have a conversation, or they were playing trip hop or something. You could still
usually
have a
trip hop.
conversation.
Yeah, but it was like a very comfortable volume. It was not an ear splitting. You could literally talk to the person right beside you. You didn't have to scream.
And that is where I literally learned something new about myself, which was that I'm capable of like I'm capable of. I know this is going to sound awful, but I was a late bloomer in a lot of ways.
Mm.
So when I was 22, 23, whatever, that's when I discovered that I could have platonic, completely ulterior motive free conversations with really hot women.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm doing right now is I'm saying my bad because of the way I was before that. And now I'm still like that. Like I don't and it just did so much for my personal growth, the rave scene. It really did.
Oh no, I believe it.
And it's I miss it. I miss it sometimes because I don't have anything to compare it to. The closest thing I can even think of is like maybe having like a reunion with a half a dozen friends at a pub and just chilling and talking all night or something like that. But but the openness, like the idea that like one time I was getting a massage, just a shoulder rub.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really high, and I was like, I was sitting there, and I was kind of like shifty a little bit. And this girl came up to me, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, I think I'm a little too high, to be honest with you. She's like, "Would you like a back rub? Like, would you like a shoulder rub?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay. I might stop you though, in case it makes you feel weird." She's like, "No, it's okay." So she gave me like a shoulder rub, and we're just having a great conversation. I don't even remember what she looked like because I'm not thinking like that. I'm not. This woman is just making me feel calm. And then this guy walks in, and she's like, "Hey, baby." He's like, "Oh, baby, how are you?" Good. It was her boyfriend who had nothing to fucking say about his girl giving me a shoulder massage. And it wasn't because they were too high. It was because it doesn't fucking mean anything in the context of that situation. And I learned so much. That's what I'm talking about. I learned so much about men and women about like in that era like of my life. Like it just was so helpful. Now it's funny because I would never even think about touching another man's wife's shoulders.
Mhm.
And that's too fucking bad in a way because it doesn't have to mean something. Do you know what I
It's not.
mean?
It's
Like,
not always sexual. Yeah, I know, and I experienced a lot of that as well. Seeing, not, I was never in your position, but I'd certainly seen a lot of that, and it was completely non-sexual. It was completely platonic. It was completely innocent. It was like, hey, you're a person. You're freaking out. I can calm you down. And I saw a lot of that. And of course, I'm drug free, so I'd be like, well, I don't know what it's like to experience, whatever they're going through, and I don't ever want to. But I'm glad that there's somebody there that can help them get through it, because
oh yeah,
it's not a pleasant time when they're freaking like that. And there was always, somebody, here, you need some Tiger Balm. Here, let me give you a back rub. And there was always back rubs constantly. You saw that so much. Here, take an orange. You need an orange. There was
yeah,
always somebody handing out oranges. And you need some water. They'd be like, you got to hydrate. Here's some water. Saw a lot of that, man. It was
yeah.
PLUR was a real thing. For those of you who don't know what PLUR was, it was the acronym for peace, love, unity, and respect. And it was a real thing. It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. It to steal a line from the movie Pump Up the Volume, all the great themes have been taken over and turned into theme parks. You know, it's
Yeah.
been completely corporatized. And look, there's a part of me that respects the hell out of it. Like if you go to Coachella and they have the rave tent, have you seen how big that tent is? You could put a Zeppelin in that thing. It's so big. It can hold 20,000 people in a tent.
And I bet you like at least half of them are between the ages of like 35 and 50.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know?
And you've got like some of the biggest DJs in the world up there, and they're just having the time. And I'm watching this stuff. I'm watching Coachella on YouTube, and I'm like, I'd really like to go there to experience it, but do I want to be there for the entire weekend? Mm, maybe just go to the rave tent and then leave.
Yeah. I would just go to the rave tent and be there all night
And then
and
leave.
hope that it would. No, well, actually, I don't know if I would anymore. I hope it's a. You know what's interesting is that I went to Whistler once in just before I got into the rave scene. Actually, I went to Whistler,
Mm.
and um and I really disliked the clickiness of the snowboarders,
Hmm. I understand.
and and I wasn't sure now in reflection if it's because I didn't snowboard, because I'm wondering how my friends and I came off in the rave scene. Like but we weren't mean though. So
Mm.
we were never like judge people and give them the once over and be like, "What, you don't know what fucking trance is?" Like we weren't
Yeah.
like that, right? Like
Yeah.
we weren't like that at all.
You weren't
But we were
dicks.
very inviting.
Yeah.
In fact, yeah. So that is my own question. Like it wasn't cliquish. It was a community.
Mhm.
You know, as cheesy as that sounds, like
Yeah, no, I get it. I was a part of it. I saw it and firsthand witnessed it and participated in it, and it really was a loving, caring community. I don't know how else to say it. Now, where are those people today? Some of them didn't make it out. Some of them,
I know a bunch of those, but I'm
you know,
friends with a handful of them still to this day.
and the ones who did make it out are doing well. Some didn't. It's one of those things. They go down a rabbit hole, get involved in whatever, and maybe they don't come back. And I saw a few people who I'm like, you need some help, man. I'm fine. I'm like, well, you can't. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yeah.
And there was people I knew who hopefully they were able to find their way through. Not everybody did. Some people didn't make it.
Yeah,
But
there's a
you,
bunch of people I know that didn't make it.
yeah,
Unfortunately, they were the ones that you expected not to make it. I'm imagining if my friends back then and some of them that I still talk to are being honest, may have thought that I was going to be one of them that didn't
hmm
make it.
yeah,
And they would have been right a couple times. You know, actually, that just reminds me, because I know that I have a couple people from Whitby that are watching. I'd just like to say rest in peace to Matt Anderson.
mm,
Matt Anderson is a guy that we all knew in high school, like a big lad. He was like 6'5", like 350 kind of guy, right?
big fella.
But the friendly giant.
Mm,
You know, like if you were ever in a fight at the bar that he happened to be bouncing at, you could count your lucky stars, because not only is he going to protect you from yourself and from the other person, but he's not going to call the cops. And because I could never imagine without that infectious smile on his face, he also was going to calm you down.
yeah.
So Matt Anderson, rest in peace. There's hundreds and hundreds of people that are,
Sorry for your loss, man.
yeah, no, you know what? Like I wasn't an inner circle friend,
Mhm.
but we had reconnected a couple years ago over music, over our love of hip hop, and like I was looking over our chats, and I'm like, wow, we chatted a lot, and I never got the chance to see him though, since 20 years ago. So
Wow.
that was unfortunate. But rest in peace, Matt Anderson. I know that you are the big homie, and you were loved by so many people. Did you ever know anyone like that? That like any gentle giants, where
Yeah.
everyone just like not only did they love him, but he seemed to love everyone.
I knew a few guys like that. There was, I'm thinking of two, well, actually four particular individuals. Two of them are still very much around. One of them, I think he is in New York City as a lawyer, and the other one is in Montreal, and he is a lawyer. And one of them, he was a bartender. And I'm not going to say his name because people would know who I met right away if I said it. And I don't. It's not. It's not my story.
Is
But
it
he was a
Pony Boy?
bartender.
Is it Pony Boy?
Yes, that's exactly who it was. He was a bartender, but he was like this. He had this. He was the sweetest, most charming, happy, smiley guy. And you'd hang out with him. And then one night we were out. It was an industry night. We were at a bar, and on Sunday night, it's about 2 in the morning, and somebody. I'm standing at the bar, and my buddy is standing behind me with another buddy, and my bartender buddy was standing behind him. Right. So there's the three of us, and we're waiting for drinks, and somebody bumped me, and I was like, sorry about that. And he goes, what'd you say? And he wanted to pick a fight with me. And my friend just reached over and put his hand on his shoulder and said, I don't think you want to do that. Just smiled at him. And he just sort of looks
Yeah.
and walked away. And it was one of
So
those things where,
disarming. The
well,
smiling giant, right? Yeah.
and here's the thing. It was until, and I'd known this guy for a couple of years. We'd gone for drinks. We hung out at the club he worked at. I didn't realize how freaking big he was until that moment.
Yeah.
He was like 6'4" and just had gigantic mitts on him, And he put the hand on the guy's shoulder and said, I don't think you want to do that. And the guy smiled and did one of these
I
and
don't think I want
left.
to either. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. There's two other fellas then, and one of them I see once in a blue moon. Another one I talk to every now and then. And these guys are legends in this city. And I mean, big guys, 6'5" and 6'7". And look, if so, one guy had the, you could push him, and he'd, okay, stop, that's enough. You got to go. You got to go. You got to go. Then he would snap. And what made him different from the other fellow was the other guy was quick to snap, but he'd go, okay, you've had enough. Whereas the other guy would keep wailing on somebody, and my buddy would have to pull him off of him.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say their names because, again, anonymity to a certain degree. But anybody who knows these two fellas know. And it was funny. A couple of years ago, I'm sitting in the pub one night having a conversation with the bartender, and I was saying, "Oh yeah, my friend, blah blah blah," and she goes, "Oh, that's my uncle." I go, "What?" She goes, "Well, not my blood uncle, but I've always called him Uncle so and so." I'm like, "Oh, so you know about the story when this happened?" She goes, "Yep, yep, yep. I remember that. The night he got shot 7 times and chased the guy down the street for about 6 blocks and decided maybe I should go to the hospital now because he was bleeding out, and got in, literally hailed a cab, went to the hospital."
Wow.
What? The guy pulled a gun on him. He threw him out of the club. The guy pulled a gun on him. He goes, well, if you're going to pull that, you better be ready to damn well use it. So he shot him like 7 times. He fired, clipped off 8 rounds. 7 of them hit him. Obviously, 3 in one arm, 1 in the leg, shoulder, and he got 2 in the stomach, which could have been fatal. Thankfully, they weren't. And I mean, the guy who shot him, nobody's ever seen him again, so we don't know what happened, if he left town or if somebody made him leave town. But yeah, that was a real story. It really happened. I remember he came into work a couple of days later and his arms in a sling. I go, bro, what's up? And he goes, I got shot. I'm like, what? And to him, he was like, yeah, well, it's just one of the.
I was going to put this on the screen for a second. This is my homie. This is Matt Anderson. Again, rest in peace. They're doing a celebration of life, I think, on Monday. He was such a good guy. Like, there's so many.
Go look at the joy in his eyes. He looks like a happy fella.
Oh, he's totally like he's one of those dudes that's like, hold on a second, like.
Aw.
You know what I mean? I don't know if I should be showing pictures of his kids or whatever. He was also a musician. We connected over music. Look at him.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's just one of those guys, right? Like it's just
You want to hang out with him?
you want to hang out with him. Everyone that knew him loved him. All of them, right? Like every like you're seeing Gentle Giant, you're
Mm,
seeing like the big lug, like everyone, big man. People called him big man. Like he was just again, he was like he was one of the bouncers that like when I was in my youth and I was in my kind of crazy phase, like when I was like 15, 16 or whatever, and I saw that Matt as a 17, 18-year old was bouncing at stairways in Whitby,
hmm
I would be like, oh, okay, good. I wouldn't get any fights that night because
Yeah.
not only did I like he was a good bouncer and not like an asshole bouncer, but I didn't want to disappoint him.
hmm
I
Mm,
didn't want him to see me being a fucking idiot.
right.
If he wasn't bouncing that night, chances are I probably would have gotten into a fight, right?
But if he was there,
But
I'm
if
not
he
going
was
to let my
there,
buddy down.
he was one of those guys that his example was just what you needed to not fuck up. Like good a good lad. Matt Anderson, I'm raising a glass to you.
No, empty glass, but here to you, brother. What uh, what was his? Do you know?
I haven't asked. It
Oh,
was
fair enough.
sudden. It was sudden, and I know he had kidney problems and everything. And
Mm.
it sounds like it might have been a heart attack, but I don't know. I'm not sure.
How old was he?
I believe he was like 49 or 50.
Okay.
One of the two. He was a couple years older than I was. So then I.
I'm sorry for the loss, man.
Yeah, that's really young. That's really
He had a
young.
wife and kids, did he?
He did. Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah. He's leaving a big hole in a lot of people's lives. First and foremost, his wife and kids.
of course.
And then like I'm gonna go to if it's open to everybody. I'm gonna go to the celebration of life that I hear is on Monday.
Mm.
I can't imagine there won't be less than like 500 people there.
Oh
The
yeah.
man was a legend in this area. Like he's one of those dudes.
Well, I'm sorry
Um,
for your loss, man.
Thank you.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, it is. I'm not. It's weird. Mourning and grieving becomes a strange place when you get older.
Hmm.
And let's face it, like when you're not in someone's life on a regular basis,
Yeah,
it's a
you're
little bit
detached.
different. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a different experience than when you see someone every day or whatever.
Hmm.
I know it's sad. I know it's heartbreaking, and I feel very 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 um, melancholy for his. I don't know if he even had more than one child, to be honest with you, but like
Mm.
his daughter. I know he's got at least one daughter, and his wife. His wife seems really sweet. Again, being out of his life for so long. Do you ever feel guilty when you grieve in a way that doesn't feel as sad as it should be?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. Hmm. I've been to like 40, 42, 43 funerals in the last 10 or 15 years. Um,
That's a lot of funerals, dude.
I know a lot of people. Most of them have been cancer. A couple of car accidents, one kidney, few self-inflicted. Most cancer, though. A military kid, moved around the country, so I know a lot of people. And it is a lot. It's a lot of funerals for somebody my age.
Yeah.
You know, and after a while, you get numb to it, and then every now and then you'll hear about so and so just is no longer with us, and you go to their funeral, and it just hits you like a ton of bricks, and unexpectedly. And it was somebody who maybe you weren't maybe super close to, but it was somebody you knew, somebody you had spent some time with and had some quality conversations with, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden they're gone. And when you show up at there was a funeral and then a celebration of life. And the funeral, I mean, I was gutted the last one I went to. That really hit me hard because this was somebody who was young, um, was taken from us tragically. And I still feel the pain from that because I'm disappointed by disappointed, no, hurt, harmed, sad that we won't get to see her second act. She was really coming into her own. She was young, and anybody who knew her would say the same thing. Like we've been robbed of who what we could have seen. what she was going to become. We all knew what she was going to become, and we're disappointed because we're robbed of her second act. And
Yeah, that's a.
do
I
you know
get
what I
that.
mean?
I do know what I mean. There's a guy. My friend Dave passed away. He was actually my boss.
Mm,
In the year 2004, 2005, and he was one of those guys that like. Do you know anyone that's where you're like, hey, I know the nicest person ever.
yeah.
He was that. Like he never seemed like he needed to go if someone needed him. He was never the person that was like, okay, can we talk about this later?
Mm,
You know, he was never that guy. He was always the guy that always had time to talk or whatever. And he worked at a he's like a telemarketing manager,
mm,
totally in the wrong field for him because he was so nice. And then what he ended up doing this thing in Hamilton where he was uh putting pop-up dinner parties in
mm.
strange places like abandoned jails,
Oh, cool.
and like abandoned warehouses and stuff like that. I can't remember what it was called. It maybe might have been called pop-up dinner actually, but really well known in his area. And he was just such a good host. Everyone just loved him so much. And when he was done, okay, and I don't this seems like a no-brainer, but no one does this. When he was done doing his dinner events, he would take all the food that was left over, not from the plates, but that was left over in the
Mm,
back, and put it and organize it into like meat, vegetables, starch, or whatever, and send it immediately to the shelters
mm.
and be like, feed this to them tonight or tomorrow. If you don't have any fridges, I got a fridge big enough, and then I'll even drop it off for you tomorrow as long as you promise that you will, And he was just so lovely, and his death hit me really hard.
I'm sure it did.
Yeah, his name was Dave Hanley, and I wrote a thing for Huffington Post or whatever, like his eulogy kind of thing,
Mm,
and it was weird because the other guilt that sometimes I feel is that I'm so sad about this person dying, even though I wasn't really in their life on a regular
mm.
basis. You ever have one of those
Yeah.
where you're just like, all of a sudden, you're just devastated at the news of something, and really, at the end of the day, you didn't spend, I didn't, I didn't see him. I saw him once in like 15 years or something, but he was very supportive. He was very like we talked on a semi regular basis via messenger kind of thing. But just because I knew of the quality of you know a person that he was, it was just so devastating. And he had like a 6-year-old daughter,
Mm.
and a really really lovely wife. And yeah, I don't know. It's just grief is weird. It doesn't hit me the way it's not consistent. You know what I mean? Like I knew Matt Anderson
Mm.
for um my upbringing, like
Right.
when I was a teenager in high school and everything. Like those are your formative years and everything.
Mm.
And he was a lovely man, and I am absolutely sad that he's gone. But it's not, and it's not the different levels of sadness. It's just I don't understand. I don't understand my own grief. I guess I don't understand
Well,
my own grieving process.
so your friend who was doing the dinner thing, when he passed away, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think because this is me sort of self-analysis, if you will. You're upset at the fact that the world is a lesser place without him.
Hmm.
The world has lost a good human being. And that tends to punch you in the gut a little bit harder because it's like, this
Well,
was a
Matt
good
was the
person,
same though.
but you were less in touch with him, I guess, maybe?
A little bit, yeah. Like
Yeah.
over the last year, not so much. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, but that's another thing is that I'm looking at I'm thinking now I'm cycling through the people that have passed away, and honestly, they're they're one of two categories. There's the ones that you expect to pass away,
Hmm.
and there's the ones that you don't, and the ones that you don't are often really amazing human beings.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Paul's got to go pee. He
I'll
doesn't
be right
want to
back.
say it out loud, but he needs to go pee. And I'm going to keep his background there. And I want to let you guys know something. That's not his real background. Paul's the only podcaster I've ever met whose green screen background looks like just the normal background that would be there. Which is why, if you were watching the Eager Beaver podcast the other day, I think it was Tuesday, and I asked, and Paul started talking about the puck that he had. the original Ottawa Senators puck or whatever. I was like, why don't you just reach behind you and get it? And he kind of looked frazzled, like a deer in headlights. And the reason why is because that's a fake background. It's just so funny. It's like, imagine this background that I have right now is just my green screen. James, what green screen background are you going to use? Oh, I'm going to use a background that looks like a shitty curtain in my mother's spare bedroom because I'm staying at my mommy's at 47. Ugh, winning. Ree, why do you avoid funerals? Does anyone want to come in? Actually, I have 24 minutes left. If someone wants to click that, they can go right ahead. Yeah, Matt Anderson. I'm oh man, it's a tough one. A lot of people that are really good souls die young. Like they say only the good die young. That's not true. A lot of assholes die young too, but I've noticed that in my circle of friends, I think I've known maybe 10 people in the last 4 years that have passed away. Like 8, two of them were like people that you expected to pass away, and then the other 8 were people that were like, oh my god, no, not that person. So yeah, I'm still on the death thing. Oh, there he is. How many times have you been a pallbearer, Paul? Pallbearer. Oh, there you go. Can I be your pallbearer?
Sure. 3 times. 3 times. So yeah.
7 for me.
Oh wow.
Why. My grandmother, my uncle. Oh my god, my opa. My opa was awful because someone had like slipped and shifted, and we could feel the weight of his body shift in the coffin.
Yeah. That's rough.
Let's get off death.
Yeah, okay.
Dave Grohl, the Keanu Reeves of Rockstars.
You gotta.
I don't like the Foo Fighters all that much. Oh, there you go.
Non-alcoholic pale ale, because there's green in the label that kind of Farm Boy non-alcoholic pale ale. So I'm giving it a go.
Did you accidentally buy it, or was it on purpose?
No, I bought it intentionally.
People are saying they can't hear me.
Oh yeah, get a little closer to the mic.
I am like literally touching the mic.
Are you using the Unify software? Maybe crank it up a bit.
Am I? I don't know.
Oh, that's pretty good.
What is? Oh, I am using Unify. Why?
That's actually really good. It's
system
a pale ale. It tastes like an IPA.
Check.
And
better?
We're getting some distortion there.
Can you hear
me? Yeah, a little distortion.
Is that okay?
Some type of yeah, that's a little better.
I can't hear you now.
Oh no. Yeah, there's a delay. It's weird.
Oh, see, people
there you
tell
go.
me to fuck with my audio.
That's
and
good.
I can't deal with it. Okay, audio output. Headphones.
No, it's good. You're good. You're good.
Tune. Is that better? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I can hear you. Oh, that's a good background.
I don't know where that came from. That's you?
What? That the fireworks?
Yeah.
That was you.
Wasn't me. No, I just did this. I don't know where they came from.
Okay. Well, in any event, let's end it. I don't want to struggle. I feel like I'm going to struggle. Yeah. You're not carrying.
I'm just going to let Saucy Sea Witch is asking. So if you're looking at the Rode USB, I would suggest the XDM 100. That's what Douglas uses, and it's kick-ass.
What, the software, you mean?
The microphone and the software comes with it automatically. Yeah, the Unify software.
That's what I have.
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't opened the Rode Unified software in like months, though. I just assumed that it was fine, but I was quiet on the Spenny thing too. Spenny was loud.
Yeah, you got to. Yeah,
but
no, you sound better now. So yeah, use the software. You might have to update it occasionally, but it's great software. It really is.
I like Ellen. Look at Ellen's like,
Ended. I just got here.
Okay. Well, you know what? I have another 19 minutes before my mom has to go to sleep. This is why I'm ending it early, by the way, because
Oh,
my mother.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I
So,
think Bridget should be on her way over shortly, actually.
oh, let's try this. Let's try this. So, guys, without giving away anything, there is one way that I could. My house right now in Killaloe, Ontario, has been vacant since um, the 4th of January
Mm.
because I needed a surety. Do you know what a surety is?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I need a surety, and I couldn't find a live-in surety. So I'd like to announce today on the Casual Friday episode that if I can find a surety to live with me in Killaloe, rent free, by the way, I can see my kids again. Because the only reason I am where I am right now is because the only surety that I could find, because I'm not from the middle of nowhere, is
Mm-hmm.
was my mother. She was the closest person. So I need to find someone who will live with me in my. By the way, it's a 4,000 square foot palace. You
Yeah.
could live there for free. You have your own bedroom. My kids are there every 7 days, for 7 days, every other 7 days. You wouldn't pay for food or drink. Literally live rent and expense free, including internet, for the next 3 months. If you become my roommate in Killaloe, I'll wait for the offers to come flying in.
They should be flooding in.
Fucking, oh my God. It's so frustrating.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure
So
it is.
seriously though, if anyone wants to be my roommate, by the way, I'm a good roommate because I cook. Um, you know, you get your own privacy. All I do is write and podcast. You won't have any problems. I won't
So
hit
do,
on you if you're a girl. I
do you
really
not
won't.
still have a book coming out sometime soon? What's the deal with that?
2 books.
2 books. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Um,
Wow.
yeah. They'll be out by September, both of them.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's good. My publisher is happy with the work, so that's good. He's all the deadlines that I blew are now forgiven. So one of them is complete and the other one is not. So be September.
Now you were over in the UK for a bit too, were you not?
I was.
Yeah. You were
I
there to
love
interview
London.
somebody?
Pardon me?
Were you there to interview someone?
Interview a few people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were in London, were you?
I was in London. I was in East
Yeah.
London.
London's a great town, man.
Dude, I fucking love England.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And there's so many good restaurants there that it makes the joke about the English being bad cooks just a shitty one.
Well, so a buddy of mine is originally from Manchester. I haven't seen him in a while because he's been traveling for work. But we had a good chuckle because he's a sommelier, an actor, and a lawyer. And we had a good chuckle about how I go, there was a time when the UK was boil everything in a pot and eat it and maybe put a little salt on it. I go, and now you've got all these famous chefs from London, and the UK has become like this culinary scene. He goes, yeah, I never saw that coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jamie Oliver, Gordon Ramsay, and then all of the other ones that come in behind them. And they have so many amazing restaurants in London.
They do gravy like nobody's business. I don't understand. The English could overnight take over the poutine market if they wanted to. They got France right there. You get your curds. They make the best gravy and best chips ever.
Well, last Sunday, Bridget and I, so the Lieutenant's Pump, where I'll be doing the podcast there tomorrow. Um, if you want to join in for a bit tomorrow, if you got time, I'll send you a
Yeah.
link. Okay, cool. A few people are going to join in. Douglas, unfortunately, won't be in town. He's going to be in Kingston because he's just getting back from Montreal. Anyway, we
He's
went.
still recovering from Madonna, is he?
Oh yeah. So we went last Sunday. The plan was to go for the prime rib roast beef because pre-pandemic, it was the Sunday thing. They'd have a big hip of roast beef, and they do traditional Sunday evening English pub roast. And they just brought it back like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I said, we got to go. So we went, but we showed up at like 6:45. And because they're just bringing it back, they're only ordering like maybe 25 or 30 plates until they see, what the vibe is like for it, because it's an expensive endeavor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't have it. So I'm like, oh. And I'm like, well, here's the next best thing. It's a roast beef sandwich. We'll ditch the sandwich. We'll just have the roast beef with mashed potatoes and gravy. And the gravy was incredible. incredible. And I'm not a gravy guy. When I go for prime rib roast beef, I want au jus. But the gravy was unbelievable. And Bridget was like, I'm not a gravy eater, but oh my God. I'm like, it was incredible. It was
Yeah.
amazing.
I'm a no jus guy like you, but like I can't I can't resist a good peppercorn gravy.
And that's what this was. And oh
Oh.
my God, was it good.
When we had dinner at that place that I don't
Mm.
remember the name,
The Al Steakhouse.
Al's Steakhouse, I had a peppercorn thing. It was pretty
Yeah,
good.
it was good. Yeah.
The only thing I didn't like about Al's was that I thought the calamari I was getting was grilled and it was deep fried. No, very disappointing. Guys, listen, if you're into calamari and you like deep fried calamari, you're not really into calamari. You're into the disguised version of calamari.
I can't
Battered,
eat it.
fried.
It'll kill me.
Oh, you're allergic to that shit too?
Seafood, man. I can't eat it.
Have you ever snorted calamari? Because it's different. No, I'm just kidding.
I lived in Newfoundland for a bunch of years when I was young, from 77 to 1980. And I ate seafood almost every day. And then we moved back to the mainland and we never had seafood because we lived in Ottawa from 80 to 84. Then we moved to Chatham, New Brunswick for a year, my mother's hometown, which is now called Miramichi City. We were there for 1 year. My parents bought their first home and then we got transferred again. So they had to sell the home. And then we moved to Bagotville, which is a Chicoutimi area.
I'm sorry, Whatville?
Bagotville.
Oh, sorry. I thought that started with an F. I was like,
Yeah,
what
no,
the
no.
fuck?
It's a CF-18 fighter base
Okay.
in near Chicoutimi.
Hmm.
So we moved there, and I hadn't eaten seafood in like 5 years. And we went out one night for dinner, and I had fillet of sole, and went into anaphylactic shock and almost died. And the doctor was like, "Don't ever eat anything from the ocean again,
Wow.
except
Seaweed.
tuna."
Oh,
Tuna.
really?
Yeah, well, and I had an allergist specialist years ago. He told me, he says, I'm sure there's somewhere somebody on Earth who's allergic to tuna, but we don't have a recorded case of it yet.
What?
I'm like, really? There's not a recorded case of a tuna allergy. He says, I know damn well, by the odds are somebody somewhere is allergic to it, but we don't have a recorded case of it.
Yeah, I just want to say to Saucy Seawitch, you're absolutely correct. Tripe is the
Oh,
most disgusting.
no.
First of all, I don't know what the fuck it's made out of, but you can
I'll
taste
tell you.
it. You can taste it 3 days later.
You want to know what it's made out of?
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Intestinal cord or something, right?
That's what it is. Cow's intestines. It's disgusting.
Dude, I ate a bite of this and I was literally, and it wasn't because I was like, it was so gross that I felt like I could taste it 3 days later. I could literally taste it 3 days later. It embeds itself into your mouth. You can mouthwash. It doesn't matter. You'll always taste tripe
Mhm.
3 days later. It's disgusting. Oh my God.
Well, I never ate tripe because my dad grew up on a farm and they ate tripe and he hated it. And he said, my children will never eat that. So we only ever ate the finest cuts of beef, ever. And I remember this funny story, right? When you're a kid, you think everybody eats the same way you do. Everybody does the same things you do because you're a kid. You don't know any better. And I remember it was Friday and I said, oh, it's Friday, spaghetti night. You have spaghetti? Yeah, every Friday. And then Sunday's roast beef. You have roast beef? I go, yeah, steak's tomorrow. You eat steak? I'm like, am I the only one here who does this? Because we ate red meat like 3 or 4 nights a week. My folks, my dad would always buy a side of beef, and that would get us right through the winter into the spring. And then in the autumn, he'd buy another one, and that would get us through, And we had steak all the time, prime rib. It's just part of our life. And like when I was a kid, I hated mac and cheese, hated it
Yeah, I
with a
don't like
passion. And then as an adult, when I was on my own and I was very poor, I learned to like it because,
Learn to like ramen instead. Ramen
well,
is
you
so
could,
much
well,
better.
but I'm going 35 years ago. Ramen was not as common as it is today.
Common ramen. There you go.
Well, now you get 4 packs of ramen for $1 at the corner store, right? At the dollar
Have
store.
you ever been to one of those like good ramen restaurants though?
No, but I would like to because I'm told it's an experience.
Not only is it experience, first of all, soup. I don't know if people understand this. When you're a drug addict, you learn quickly the types of foods that a eliminate a hangover and b allow you to come down
Mm.
off of a drug like cocaine, it's always soup.
Really?
Always. Soup is the greatest food ever
So
when
like
you want to
pho or
stop being fucked up.
pho?
Honestly. Pho is the number one hangover food on the planet.
Well, I believe that because I don't know how many times I've been in a pho restaurant at like 3 in the morning, and all the people from the clubs are coming in.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to live at Spadina Circle in Toronto. And if you know Toronto,
Yes.
Spadina Circle is just north of Spadina and College. You got Chinatown to the south of you. You got the Annex to the north of you. You got Little Italy to the west of you,
Hmm.
and to the other side you got U of T. It's a cultural hub. Like that's what that is. But was it only a block and a half away? The greatest hangover food of all time, the pho on Spadina. Yes, it was. Yes, sir, it was. And I went there religiously, and it was amazing. After a while, it feels like it's almost like the placebo effect.
Hmm.
Like am I really getting rid of my hangover, or am I just thinking I am? And is that okay too?
Well,
That
it's
sort of thing.
probably the high sodium content, and then when you drink water, your body actually can retain it. I have like a pseudo condition where if I just drink water, because Bridget always has tons of water, always drinking water. She always has water at the bedside. I never do. She goes, "Why not?" And I go, "Because I'll have to get up to pee 4 or 5 times. My body doesn't absorb it well. So for me to absorb water, I need sodium. So it's like take some salt, drink some water, or eat a salty food, drink some water. Otherwise, it just runs right through me. I've been like that my whole life. So,
Yeah.
and last night we went out to see dueling pianos, and I drank 4 or 5 glasses of water, and I had a sun, what is it, Corona Sun Brew, which is a zero point 0.0 Corona, and it tastes exactly like a Corona. It's great. And I had a glass of wine, Trius Cabernet Sauvignon, which was really nice. Of course, it gave me terrible heartburn because I
Yeah.
ate chili. We had chili for dinner, and then I had a glass of wine. That's not a good combination.
I love that combination because I'm Italian. Anything
Uh,
tomato based with wine is fine.
oh, it's wonderful, but
Just sleep on your tummy.
yeah, I did. But I had to get up 3 or 4 times because I drank so much water last night, on the non-alcoholic beer. So.
I just want to let everyone know I'm having Dave. Do you know who Dave Troy is?
I don't
He's an
think I do.
American investigative journalist
Oh, okay.
for the Washington.
Examiner?
Yes, that's the one. I'm having him on. Bob Menendez. Do you know who that is? He's a senator out of the States. He was busted for corruption, taking bribes like fucking 15 years ago or something. Busted last year for bribery charges related to Egypt. Busted again like 3 weeks ago for bribery charges related to Qatar. And here's the interesting part. I have a story that I have a source that told me 6 months ago that this same senator, before all this other shit came out,
Mhm.
took $1 million in bribe money from the Taiwanese government for beefing up the Taiwan defense security package from 3.5 billion to 14 billion. And I was like, I don't know how, I can't prove this. I'm like, I don't have any tertiary sources, so I don't know how I can help you. And they're like, this person is like, here's another 9 names. So if this story is true, and I don't know if it is,
Mhm.
this source is telling me that 5 Democrats and 5 Republicans that were all on the committee that beefed up the security package to Taiwan from
Mhm.
3.5 billion to 14 billion are all on the take. It's a
Wouldn't surprise me.
bipartisan corruption scandal. And then ever since that guy told me that, all these other stories about Bob Menendez has been coming out. So I don't know what to do. So I've decided that I'm going to give the story to Dave Troy because I don't have
Mhm.
the resources to like find out if these like wire transfers happen or whatever. So I'm going to give it to him. Maybe share a byline with him or something like that. But he's going to be on the show on February 1st. Imagine if it's true. Like, holy
crazy.
shit.
Mm.
Like, you know, for all the things that are wrong with Canadian politics,
Mm.
when you remove Doug Ford from the equation, are we really seeing the type of shit that we see in the United States? Like,
I
it's so
certainly hope we
crazy
never
there.
do. That's just
Yeah,
beyond, right? Like that's beyond.
yeah. Hold on a
That's
second.
wild.
Let's see what's going on here. Because Kazi did this too to me. Ellen, I did go to Henry Street High School. And then Kazi, or was it Kazi or Mohan, that was telling me that they someone else has a Whitby connection in the chats. Curious who it is. I did go to Henry Street High School. I went there from grade 9 and 10. Grade 11, I got expelled. Went to two different high schools that year. Came back for grade 12 and a half. I did another half semester. So I did like 5 years or something of high school. But yeah. Um, are you? She just says I do. I don't remember what I asked you, Ellen. But what do you do? You live in Whitby? How old are you, Ellen? Ellen? Why don't you just click the fucking link? You don't have to be. You don't have to be there in video. But if you click that, we can actually talk. Because I would love. I have a weird love hate relationship. We have a mural friend. Is that mutual?
Mutual friend. Mutual friend.
Can I ask who the mutual friend is, please? Oshawa, same age as Paul. Ellen, are you single? Would you like to date me? I need a
God,
date.
man.
I just want to go out and have some food. I just want to go out and have some soup. Can we go out and have some soup? Don't worry, I won't hit on you. I don't give a fuck. I want to get out of here. I've been living at my mom's house since January 4th. I haven't done anything. I have not done anything at all. So I need Ellen. Ellen, I would like to ask you for the pleasure of your company to go buy soup. You want to go buy soup, Ellen? Ramen? Wait. There she goes.
Is there a good faux place nearby?
I'll fucking make the soup. I don't give a shit. She can meet my mom. I feel like Costanza. I'm not unemployed. I'm actually employed. I'm actually whatever. I'm employed. I have several charges that are pending against me, and I live with my mommy. So
Yeah, I don't know what to say to that.
well, that's why you're a shitty co-host. Fuck. I'm supposed to say something. Don't just leave me hanging here.
You're living with your moms, eh? That's
Okay, but listen, I want to make my plea again because my plea is important. If I can find a roommate to live with me in Killaloe for 3 months only, rent free, all expenses paid, I can see my kids again. I don't have to live with my mom.
well, the only issue with Killaloe is not exactly close.
How about you start with the pros, Paul?
You're in a big house, and everything is taken care of.
That's right. It is a
That's
big
that's a
house.
pro. So if somebody,
Very big house.
if someone somewhere watching this needs a free place to stay for 3 months, all expenses paid, James can help you out.
That is right. Like, listen, if you're a writer or a painter or a fucking harpist or some sort of arts, whatever, I know what you need. You need rent free, room and board taken care of, internet taken care of. I know what you need. If you can be that person for me, I will be Daddy Warbucks for you for the next 3 months.
You know, there was a time
And
not too
Ellen's
many
like in the
years
middle of
ago that
nowhere
I
in the
would have
winter.
taken you up.
Correct. But you know what will keep you warm? Savings.
Yes. Oh yeah. I had a friend a few years ago who, honest to goodness, he decided he wanted to save some extra money. And I said, well, okay, what are your plans? He goes, I'm going to live on my boat for 6 months. I'm like, so he goes, I'm getting rid of my apartment. I'm going to put a lot of my stuff. I'm going to sell a bunch of stuff. I'm going to put some stuff in storage. And he lived on his boat from May until late October, actually. And with the dock he was at, they had power hookups. They had Wi-Fi. He didn't have a shower on his boat, but they had a shower at the boathouse. And he'd go in every morning, take a shower, go and have coffee, have breakfast there, and then go to work, come home and have dinner there. He cooked most of his meals on his boat because he didn't have dinner at the boathouse every night. He saved something like $25,000
Yeah, that's
in
right.
like a 9-month period between what he was spending on rent, on travel expenses, on, all the other stuff. He was like, no, I can't beat it. It's the best way. I'm like, yeah, no kidding.
I'm even tempted to offer people like, look, if you want to keep your apartment, I'll pay for your apartment.
Oh, well.
Like I need to see my kids,
Yeah, I
like
understand that.
and this surety situation, I didn't do any. I can't get into the legal stuff,
Of
but I
course
didn't
not.
do anything wrong. I am in a situation right now where my kids love me to death. I love them to death, and sometimes let me just speak am-
Ambiguously.
ambiguously for a
Yeah.
second.
Gary
Sometimes
and
exes can be they want to play hardball, and the only people that it benefits is them.
mhm,
It doesn't benefit the kids or the ex or whatever. And I'm dealing with a situation like that. A troubled person, a person who needs help, a person
mhm,
who needs therapy seriously. Like,
mhm.
and this is coming from a person who's currently in therapy.
Right.
Like I don't. I'm an open book. I keep my shortcomings pretty clear. I think
Mhm.
on this show. And I need I didn't plan on doing a plea for a roommate during this episode of Casual Friday, but I need a roommate so I can see my kids, and that's just the way it is. So if you want to live rent free and expense free for the next 3 months, because that's all I need is 3 months, then please let me know. Paul, thank you for joining us. I
Yeah, no, it
appreciate it.
was fun. Thank you. I had a good
When am
time.
I going to be? Listen, I want to be a guest on Eager Beaver, and Douglas keeps on being like, "Well, what do you want to talk about?" Like,
Um,
what you guys talk about?
we
You
just
don't want
make
to
it
talk
up
about.
as we go along. Well, I'll have you on the pubcast tomorrow for sure. I'll send you a link.
Fuck the podcast. I want to be on the show.
Well, no, but the pubcast is fun too.
I know it is. I know it is.
Yeah, I'll send you a link for that, and yeah, we'll figure something out. We got a few things in the hopper right now. We have next Friday. We have Senator Project Brazeau who's going to be on the show. Uh,
Yeah.
Looking forward to that, and
Who's
we've
coming
got
on the show?
Senator Patrick Brazeau.
Oh. Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. His people reached out to us, and we're like, yeah, we'd love to have you on. So we've got him for about 2 hours. He was able to free up 2 hours of his time, so we're really looking forward to it. It should be a really good discussion too, so that should be fun.
Yeah, he's an interesting character. Is he still a senator?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Good.
yeah. Once a senator, you're kind of a senator for life. You have to get booted to not be a senator, and he's really put in the work and turned his life around in the last couple of years.
I still
Um,
talk to Mike Duffy.
oh yeah, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Wow.
On a fairly regular basis, actually. He's you have to like tell him, Duff, I gotta go now. Like
Yeah.
when you're on the phone with him. But yeah, I feel sorry for Duffy because
Where's he now? What happened to him?
he's in PEI.
He isn't beyond. Okay. Guys, I know that's where he's from, but
He's back there. His health isn't great.
no, he's not been healthy for a long time though.
His wife hates it when he talks to me because I get him all excited. I get him all pumped up. I keep on telling him, I'm like, "Do you want to come on the show?" My wife won't let me. I'm like, oh fuck, that's too bad because I'd love to have you on the show.
Oh well.
All right, Paul. Paul
All right, man.
Atkinson from the Eager Beaver podcast. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I appreciate
Thanks, brother. It was fun.
it. All right, buddy.
Take care.
Talk soon. Okay.
Bye.
Okay, Ellen. I'm just kidding. Um, it's hard being a guy that jokes all the time because I really do need a roommate to live in Killaloe, Ontario, in a 4,000 square foot house with your own bedroom. You don't pay for anything, including rent, internet, food, alcohol, shrooms. You want? And by the way, living with me, this is us like the James that you guys think you know. I'm not gonna be running around like wearing lampshades and being on shrooms all the time or whatever. That's like once a week, maybe. No, it's not even that. But in order to see my kids, I need to live in surety. I need someone to live with me for 3 months. Um, I need a roommate, and that's what it is. So, if anyone out there wants to or knows anyone degrees of separation, all that. If anyone knows Kevin Bacon, tell him to give me a call because I need a roommate. And we'll see you next time on Blackballed.
Blackballed. Blackballed. Blackballed. Blackballed. Blackballed. Blackballed.